The coral reefs of Australia are bright and colorful places of happiness for all kinds of fish and sea critters. But there's always danger lurking around every corner. One surly cephalopod has a habit of hypnotizing its prey and tricking its rivals with fancy flashes. The cuttlefish is simultaneously a dangerous predator and a master con artist. But being one of the smartest invertebrates has its advantages and helps it survive here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
And today we're talking about another misnamed sea creature with a sneaky nature. But more on that later.
Yes, we're just all about misnamed creatures.
Well, there's just a lot of misnamed animals in the water.
Yeah, everything's a fish. Because thousands of years ago, they're just like, hey, look at that thing in the water. It's a fish. And then now we know better than them.
Thompson fell in the water. What should we do? Nothing. He's a fish now.
Nothing is a fish. We should capture him in our nets. Sell him by the pound.
But what we're talking about today is the giant cuttlefish.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's not a fish.
No, it's not a fish at all. But it's also known as the Australian giant cuttlefish for reasons that should be apparent. But since it's so misnamed, you'd be justified in believing that it actually doesn't live in Australia, but it does. But we're going to call it here the sneaky snuggle squid.
Nice.
The heavy-lidded Henry, and the dastardly damp squid.
What's a damp squid?
A damp squib, the B, is a phrase.
What is that from?
It's from the very last episode of IT Crowd.
That's right.
A damp squib means a situation where everyone already knows what's being said or talked about. Like, this whole situation is a damp squib. I've literally never heard another human being outside of that show use this term, but it is a real term.
Maybe it's an British thing.
Maybe. But yeah, it is dastardly and also damp, so.
Sweet.
But how about you taxonomize this guy for us?
Well, it's in the kingdom you know, love, and are in the kingdom Animalia. It's in the phylum Mollusca, not Chordata.
I always forget that it's like, I always want to put phylum Cephalopoda. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely the phylum. It's like, no, this is a mollusk.
It's a snail.
It's an advanced snail.
It's in the class Cephalopoda. Do you know what that means?
Head foot.
Yeah, it just means something whose arms and feet come out of their head.
Yeah, I mean, like, the snails are gastropods, so the gastropoda, so they're stomach foots.
That's true.
That sounds like a hobbit name. Proudfoots and stomach foots.
They're in the order Sepiidae.
Sepiida. They don't add the E until the family.
Sepiada. The family, you're right, is Sepiidae. And the genus is Sepia, which is funny, because we'll talk about why later. And the subgenus is Sepia. Did you see that coming? No, you didn't.
I didn't.
It's in the species Apama. Sepia apama.
Giant cuttlefish. Sepia apama. So it sounds like a South American fruit with a really common Instagram filter.
Yeah. You haven't been on Instagram in a while.
Oh, do they not do that anymore?
There's not that much in the way of sepia filters anymore. No more borders either.
I've missed so much. I really need to freshen up.
Do you though? I feel like now's as good a time as any to not go on social media.
You're right about that. But since we're in the business of naming things other than Instagram, it's time for my favorite part of the show. And that part of the show is critter groups. This part of the show is where I ask Joe a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of this animal? Or what is the name of the collective noun for this animal? Or what is the term of venery for this animal? And cuttlefish don't like each other very much. They don't really hang out in groups. So we're going to take it one step back and talk about squid. Because I think we've done one squid on this show. It's the very first episode, the Humboldt squid. So we have not done a Critter Groups. Critter Groups is younger than that. So we can, let's see if we can get this. So if you saw a bunch of squid together, would you say, hey, look at that squish of squid?
I hope so, but I don't think so.
B, look at that dazzle of squid. C, look at that shoal of squid. Or D, look at that latch of squid.
Shoal, final answer.
Is it that obvious? Ding, ding, ding.
Well, I know
You are
shoal.
correct.
I know for a fact that shoal is a group of, I think, dolphins. No, that's a pod. The shoal is like something I've heard as a group in the water.
Oh, should I have gone with school?
I've never
pod.
heard it definitively with squid, but I knew shoal was a thing.
If I was
The last one was tantalizing.
if I would pick one, it would be dazzle.
Yeah, I know. That's why I didn't pick that.
That's what I would have named it, like, because they all. Well, we'll talk about it later. How about you tell us what a cuttlefish looks like, specifically the giant cuttlefish, but the major fact's going to cover cuttlefish in general.
Okay. So, cuttlefish look sort of like a short-armed octopi, or a short-armed octopus with large mantles. So it's like in the cephalopod ratio, it's a lot of cephala and not as much poda as a octopus.
Too much cephala, if you ask me.
Don't compliment him too much. He's gonna get a huge cephala.
with a pinch of poda.
Giant cuttlefish have flat fins that surround their mantles, that allow them to swim around and it helps with locomotion. Unlike an octopus, cuttlefish usually swim around horizontally with their arms out in front of them or behind them. So they spend less vertical time. You know, are you picturing this?
Yeah, most squid use like jet.
Yeah, when they're squid, yeah. I'm comparing it to the look of an octopus, though.
Okay, octopuses. They like to crawl around on the ground, or use the jet way to escape.
But these guys move more like traditional fish. But they ain't fish. They do have relatively large eyes, though, and those eyes have long horizontal pupils.
They look really weird.
Yeah, that's like a squiggly line.
They look
people.
They look almost asleep all the time.
Yeah.
Kind of condescending.
Like squinty-eyed.
Yeah. This is
like they're giving you the stink eye.
The Squidward should have been a cuttlefish.
That would have been good. Cuttlefish word.
It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but I think it would have been worth it to preserve the integrity of the show.
So, with a name like Giant, it has to be big, right? So let's talk about size. Welcome to the Beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, the part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's produced by you when you send an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words measure up into healthytaxonomy@gmail.com. We do have a new Measure Up intro from Cassie. Cassie does music on Spotify and YouTube under the name Cassie Michelle, and you're probably hearing some of that right now while I'm talking. And guess what? I heard it, and it's good. Und good for you. It's very good.
It's a deep cut. All right, let's hear it. Thanks. I'm excited. I always love new measure ups.
This is to curb your enthusiasm. This is not a musical measure up, but it is enthusiastic.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a musical measure up.
It is not.
Okay.
But
I'm also excited for new measure ups. Anyway.
Okay. Good. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
Measure up.
I like it. It was enthusiastic.
Yes.
It's good. It's good.
Very good.
That was that we need that kind of energy.
It's always good to have high energy. We've had a lot of good high energy ones.
Yeah.
This one is the best in recent memory, especially since a lot of the recent memory has weird animal sounds in it.
The John Cena one.
Oh, that's
gave,
right. That's
gave me
also-
heart palpitations.
But thank you, Cassie.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's get into length. Cuttlefish can be up to 50 centimeters or 20 inches in length.
The giant cuttlefish.
Yes, not just any cuttlefish, the bigger ones. How many Patu digua spiders go into the length of the giant cuttlefish?
That's not fair.
Here's a hint.
It's not fair.
The Patu digua is thought to be the smallest spider in the world.
Okay, that helps.
But there might be a smaller spider in Africa called Anapistula caecula or caecula. The female of that species is slightly larger than the Patu, but the male has never been seen before, and male spiders are usually smaller than female spiders. So there might be a smaller spider out there.
So it's the male's so small that he might be everywhere, but nobody sees him.
He's indetectable. So
He's
what?
like Merlin the magician when he turns into a disease in the Sword in the Stone.
Yes, he still has a very loud voice, but his body is little.
Yeah, as spiders are wont to do. That's probably a really, really tiny spider, like smaller than the ghost ants that crawl across my desk every once in a while.
Ghost ants are small.
Oh man, that's got to be. Did you say 50 centimeters?
I did 50 centimeters, 20 inches.
Okay, we're probably gonna have to go with centimeters because we're getting down to the nitty gritty here, and inches the smallest unit of imperial measurement. So probably gonna have to go with 1 millimeter. It's probably in the nanometers, or micrometers, or I don't know what. But we're gonna go with 1 millimeter, and this is 50 centimeters. So if it's 1 millimeter, that means 10 of them go into a centimeter, which means it's got to be smaller than a millimeter. I'm gonna say 1,000.
1,000 spiders?
No, 500. I'll stick with my millimeter thing. I'm gonna say 500 spiders go into the length.
Spiders go into the length of a giant cuttlefish. The correct answer was 1,333.
Ugh, darn it. Why do I stick to my guns when I'm so wrong?
Patu digua is 0.015 inches or 0.3 millimeters.
I almost, the 1,000 would have, I was going to be like, it's half a millimeter probably. And that would have gotten me a lot closer.
That would have been, yeah. It's not, it's a little smaller than half, but yeah.
I should have second guessed myself.
Okay, maybe you can redeem yourself on the weight. They're like 10.5 kilograms or 23 pounds. How many square feet of microlattice, the world's lightest metal material, go into the weight of a giant cuttlefish?
How many square feet?
Square feet of microlattice. So here's a hint. Boeing invented microlattice to be strong and light. Microlattice is it's kind of like a sponge of interconnected nickel that is thinner than human hair.
The sheet?
Yeah. So it's not. If you look at a picture of it, it looks kind of like an organized Brillo pad. Like it's like a weaving.
Brillo pads are so notoriously disorganized.
Yeah, well,
you can't hire them for anything.
If you look at this, you'll realize what I mean by an organized Brillo pad. So, just so you know, nickel's not even the lightest metal. Lithium is. Metallic lithium is the lightest metal, but
doesn't have the structural integrity.
It probably doesn't, no.
All right, so square foot, a foot by a foot, fruit by the foot is okay. I'm picturing it about like if you could draw a square around the average dinner plate, it's kind of where we stand.
Yeah, that's fair.
And man, I'm bad with weight. That's why I try to run and go to the gym. An ounce? Should I go with an ounce? Should I?
The dreaded ounce.
The dreaded ounce? Probably not. I'm gonna go with a third of an ounce because because an ounce is apparently the heaviest unit of measurement known to man. Like an ounce of something could kill a man. So
an ounce of neutron star could.
That's because it's really hot. So that means 48 go into a pound. It sounds like not enough, but we'll go with it. And since it's 23 pounds, we're gonna go with 1,100. Actually, I'm gonna go with 1,300 just because that was the answer to the last one.
1,100
No, 1,300.
100,300 square feet of microlattice.
Yeah.
The correct answer is 4,099 square feet of microlattice.
Wow, that is light stuff. So it's like...
microlattice is 2 grams per square foot.
How many ounces is that, do you know?
I don't know it in ounces, but it is 0.00561 pounds per square foot.
When it comes to really, really small and light things, it would really behoove me to learn the metric system a little bit better.
That's true. It is easier to do the math as well.
Well, the math is the easy part. It's the estimation that I don't have because I don't interact with it very much. If I could estimate it, then the math is easy because it's the metric system.
Yeah, I knew that this time, because you're so imperial about it, I knew that going with tiny things would be difficult.
Well, basically going with anything is difficult. I'm shooting for the stars here. I'm just being dragged along.
But isn't that crazy that basically a mansion's worth of floor space, or like a decent house's worth of floor space, is the same weight as a giant cuttlefish when it comes to microlattice?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's probably a really expensive material too.
Yeah, I think you can buy it because when I was Googling it, everyone was like, how much is it? Where can I buy it? Or maybe you can't, and that's what people are asking. But that's all I got for Measure Up.
Okay.
Would you like to hear some fast facts?
I can't find I can't find it for sale. So
dang, we could have bought some. Also, before we finish Measure Up, I said that some rando, I emailed him and to ask if he wanted to get a shout out based on his email name, and he said yes later. So his name is Mindset Reframed. I tried to find if that was like a YouTube channel or a podcast, but I don't know. There's a nice little picture of it, and I don't know what it is, but that's him.
Mindset Reframed.
Yes.
It sounds good. Sounds enlightening.
It does sound enlightening. So thanks to Mindset Reframed, a.k.a. some rando, for
the Measure Up.
The John Cena Measure Up.
Yeah, for giving me nightmares.
Mention that when you mentioned it. But... Are you ready for some fast facts?
I thought I found how much metallic microlattice structures would cost, but what I really found was a book called Metallic Microlattice Structures.
That costs like $22.
Because I was like, no way, it's like $9.18. Shipping's free with Amazon Prime. I could buy the craziest material ever. Anyway, sorry, we could stop talking about it.
Let's get into the fast facts before the major fact. Cuttlefish live for up to 2 years, and their main goal is to blow up and then act like they don't know nobody. I mean, their main goal is to survive and mate in the winter.
Okay, what was... Never mind.
It's a meme. You wouldn't understand.
I wouldn't know. Is that one of the Instagram memes?
I think it was a Vine meme.
Do they put that on the Instagram?
I've seen it on Instagram. Not recently. So it's kind of in your wheelhouse. It's an old meme. It's a dead meme.
If it's not a Rage comic, then I haven't seen it.
You're way farther back than I thought.
If it's not Bad Luck Brian, then I don't know it. Anyway, continue.
Females are polyandrous. Do you know what that means? I think you've mentioned it before.
That's like having multiple mates?
Yeah. It means they will take multiple mates, which helps to maximize their chances of reproduction. Females lay eggs on rocks or in like little caves, which then hatch 3 to 5 months later. Imagine having a gestation time that could be half as long as the minimum. So like it would be like, for a human, it'd be like, well, you could give birth in 9 months, or it might be in like 4 months.
or might be tomorrow, might be 9 months from now, who knows.
But it doesn't matter because the cuttlefish parents are not there to find out, because they die right after mating. Right after the cuttlefish spawn, they kick the bucket, go to the way of the salmon. For the most part, cuttlefish spawn in pairs or in small groups. They break up into small groups. Discuss the word. I mean to spawn.
Two very different things.
Yeah. However, there is a famous snorkeling spot in South Australia called Point Lowly, where cuttlefish aggregate in spawning groups that can be as large as 10 individuals.
Whoa, 10.
10 whole ones, yeah. And people like to go and snorkel with them.
That's cool. I want to do that.
So we don't know much about well, I'm not getting in the water in South Australia. Or actually, I think it's North Australia where the box jellies are.
No, that was Western Australia.
Western, yeah.
That was off the Gold Coast.
But
Perth.
between great whites and box jellies...
You're fine. Great whites aren't that much of a danger to you as long as you don't pretend like you're a seal.
What's the point of swimming then?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's going to be hard for you, but you really have to work on not being a seal.
Being a seal?
Just for at least like the 30 minutes that you're snorkeling or whatever.
I love to bark and clap. What am I supposed to do?
I mean, it's just going to be your downfall, or you're just not going to be able to participate in the activity.
Those are my 2 standard emotes.
Bark
so
and
we
clap.
Speaking of emotes,
those are sea lions anyway.
That's true. That's true. So we don't know much about juveniles after they leave the spawning grounds, and they haven't posted any strategy guides for how they make it to adulthood. So we're not really sure. It was funny.
10 ways to make it to adulthood.
Yeah,
here's how to 10x your survival rate.
I was thinking more along the lines of like a video game walkthrough, but okay, we could also do like a TED Talk type thing. I was just reading the life cycle, and it was just like, we don't know the juvenile cuttlefish's strategies for survival. And I'm like, okay. Oh, that's a funny word.
You have to pick up the Estes shards.
Bottlenose dolphins like to eat giant cuttlefish, but they don't like eating ink or cuttle bones, which are hard internal shells. So when your food has 2 things you don't like, what do? You
don't eat it.
No.
Oh.
You figure out a way around it.
Oh,
so
I
dolphins.
Dolphins are braver than me.
Dolphins also like live in the ocean, which is like there's large parts of it where there's nothing in it, and they have to eat something. So they're gonna do something special. So they figured out a way to drain the ink from a cuttlefish and then tear out the cuttle bone before eating it. I was going to read directly from an article about this, but it was brutal, and the terminology was unsettling. But basically, they boop them into the ground until they spray out the ink. They basically squeeze. Well, first of all, they kill them first, so they're not being tortured usually. They kill them. How do you think they kill them? Not by eating them. They're not putting that stuff in their mouth. They don't want a mouthful of ink. They kill them with their tails. They smack them with their tails, breaking their cuttle bone.
And that just kills them immediately?
I guess so. It kills or eventually, but that's how they deal the blow. But then they will like assume a vertical position and poke them into the sea floor until they squirt out all their ink. And then they rub them up against the sea floor until they can like remove the cuttle bone.
It's like me trying to get all the ketchup out of a ketchup
They fillet
packet.
them essentially, yeah. And then first they squish the ketchup out of them, and then they fillet them to get the cuttle bone out, and then they chomp down on this pulverized caviar.
Oh, they actually prepare their food.
Yes, the article said they are now known as the chefs of the ocean because this, and I'm like, no, they're not. You just said that. That's it. They're not known as that.
Because I didn't know them as that.
Yeah. If I don't know them, then it's not true. Cuttlefish are colorblind, but it's thought that they may be able to see the linear polarization of light. You know who else can do that?
Bugs?
No, the mantis shrimp.
Oh, the mantis shrimp can see like 3 colors we can't see.
That's true. That's true too. But they can also see the linear polarization of light. And then the only animal that's like we're pretty dang sure they can, but the cuttlefish may be another animal that can. But that's all I got in the way of fast facts.
I was watching the Disney Nature Dolphin Reef documentary on Disney Plus, and there's just a whole segment about a cuttlefish and a mantis shrimp facing off. The mantis shrimp is a huge character because he's he's like this fussy busybody who's constantly trying to keep his area all nice and neat, and everyone keeps messing it up. Disney loves to give these
personify,
anthropomorphic characteristics to their to these animals. All right, so let's talk about the major fact. So many cephalopods are armed with special cells called chromatophores, and you probably remember this if you've listened to our Humboldt squid and mimic octopus episodes, and I'm trying to think of other ones, but those are the only two I can think of. I think that they're the only two cephalopods we've done. Oh no, wait, the Argonaut is another cephalopod, but
we haven't done an octopus.
Yeah, we did the mimic octopus, and
that's right.
The Argonaut's an octopus as well.
Very true.
But yeah, the Humboldt squid and the mimic octopus, they have chromatophores, and just as a refresher, these are cells that have different pigments in them. So at any given time, these animals have all the pigments that they could possibly produce on their skin. So if they want to be, let's say brown, they'll make it so that all of their brown cells will expand and all of the cells that are different colors will contract so that it changes their color. All you see is brown. If they want to be silver or cream colored or something like that, then those cells will expand and the brown ones or whatever will contract. So that's how it's not actually giving off light, but it can these primarily cephalopods can do this relatively quickly, change their cells so that they can camouflage and all kinds of things. And for the most part, they use it to camouflage and to communicate with other members of their species, like the Humboldt squid and the mimic octopus. But the cuttlefish does both of those things and adds a little bit of extra spice on top. So the cuttlefish can change colors like really fast. I mean, you can like see a video where they pick up an octopus and then they catch an octopus that's like red, and then they throw it onto the deck of a white boat, and then it hits the boat and it's white immediately, which is crazy. But the cuttlefish can create flashing strobe patterns that like run across their body like they're that little candy cane thing outside of a barber shop, crossed with like a electronic dance music party or something. The first way that they use this ability to strobe like this is to catch prey. In some cases, they will camouflage as staghorn coral or just coral that sticks up. Elkhorn coral also does that. And then they'll take their arms and kind of fan them out and then turn that shade of yellow or tan or red or whatever, so that they can blend in with the coral around, so that they can get closer to their prey, which is pretty interesting. It's kind of like the mimic octopus, where it uses its arms. It puts them in positions to pretend to be other animals. But in other cases, it will put on this dazzling strobe light display, and it'll flash from kind of like white or cream color to dark brown. And this actually hypnotizes small fish and crustaceans. And when I was watching this documentary, it hypnotized the mantis shrimp, or at least they cut it to make it look like they were hypnotizing the mantis shrimp. But it definitely did that with what looked like a blue crab or something like that.
That's interesting because they think that because they can see this, that there's also something that like maybe can play with the polarization of light in their skin. So it's possible that the shrimp and the cuttlefish can both see something we can't see.
I'm sure they can.
And that cuttlefish might be communicating with each other based on the stuff that we can't see.
These ultra visual light frequencies. Yeah, so like they'll put on this display, and then, I mean, in the documentary, the crab's just kind of like he doesn't move. He should run away, but he doesn't. His feet won't let him. And the cuttlefish is just slowly floating toward him with this hypnotizing aura, and then it just takes two arms and grabs him and sucks him into his mouth. So that's terrifying. So yeah, they use their ability to change colors quickly to hypnotize their prey. But the second way that they use their chromatophores is in mating situations. So females and males typically use distinct patterns. Females tend to have a mottled, patchy exterior, while males have a tight stripe pattern. But not all cuttlefish are created equal. Some males are larger than others, and usually the bigger ones can bully the smaller ones out of being able to mate. Like you said, they pair off. So if a smaller one is paired off with a female, a bigger one can just come in and take that female from him. So what do the small males do? Well, it might be obvious, but they cross-dress. A sneaky beta male will place himself between the female and the alpha. So he might have the alpha on his right, I almost said right-hand side, his right arm side. Can't say tentacle, it's not a tentacle.
Right fin.
Right, yeah, right fin side, and then the female on his left fin side. And the side that's facing the male, he will have that striped, or he'll have the blotchy, mottled pattern of a female, and the side that's facing the female, he'll have the striped pattern of the male. And if you look at this, it's crazy because it's divided right down the middle. It's as stark as Iron Man. And so what the male sees is two ladies hanging out. They're fine. They're innocent. Look at them hanging out over there. Now I've got the alpha male's probably like, hey, look, now I got two females. I'm rolling it. This is going great. And then the female's like, hey, look at this small male that's showed up. Maybe he's a candidate because, like as you said, they mate with multiple males to increase their likelihood of fertilization. So the sneaky male will use this to buy himself time, so that he can put on his mating display, and which is usually having to do with the pattern of stripes in their movement, to convince her to mate. But it's a tricky situation because they only tend to do this when there's one rival male, because he can always keep himself between the male and the female. But if there's another rival male, it's going to be a lot more difficult to make sure that neither rival male can see this ruse. So, because if the ruse is discovered, then the sneaky male will be attacked and will lose all chances of mating with that female. So, and also probably be injured. So, in a bunch of studies that researchers did, they found that it was a lot more common in situations where there was one rival male. So yeah, that's the cuttlefish. It's actually it has the highest brain to body ratio in any invertebrate. So it's, for all intents and purposes, one of the most intelligent invertebrates in the world.
A lot of it is devoted to vision, visual stuff.
Yeah, they have really complicated eyes that look disinterested and condescending and sleepy.
Same.
Do you?
No.
Oh. That's all I got.
Same.
All right, awesome. So for you, that was the giant cuttlefish. For you out there in Podcastia, turn on the lights, dazzle the one you love, and think creatively, like the cuttlefish here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Good.
And with that was our 130th episode. We close out the 13th season of the show, but fret not. We'll be right back next week with yet another 10 awesome animals that you desperately need to know about. But first, we'd like to take a minute to thank some of the people that have helped make this little podcast what it is. First, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone who sent in a Measure Up intro. I know I give the segment a lot of grief. I mean, it gives me a lot of grief. But hearing the voice of someone who enjoys the show and seeing the effort they put in really means a lot to us. So thank you. I'd also like to thank those who left a review for the show since our last season ended. We have 2 this season from Hello and No and Jeremiah 4810 is the username. And it's a pretty great and powerful verse. If you just left some stars in the rating, thank you as well. We don't have your username, but still, it really means a lot. It helps us rank in the Apple Podcast algorithm. I'd also definitely like to thank Brian, or we'd like to thank Brian for his incredible ability